Hello, my name is Carla Wiemers. I'm a volunteer here at Beaver Lake Nature Center, and I will be demonstrating how to make a holiday wreath. So we start today with a quick overview. You take boughs like this, cut off small pieces, put them in piles, and then we're going to wire them on a frame. What you will need to have collected are your greens, your coat hanger, a paddle of wire, your bow, pine cones if you want them, and any other decorations that you want. So we're going to start by making your frame. You make it on a coat hanger, you pull it into a diamond shape, and then you want to use your thumb to try to shape a circle. Some of these coat hangers are really strong, and you'll have trouble bending that corner. So if you step on it with your foot, you can flatten it out and then go back and do it with your thumb. This is a fairly soft coat hanger, so it works pretty well. You can also make these coat hangers into a square, a diamond, an oval, a heart shape, even a candy cane, and use the same technique for finishing it. So we want to make it as round as we can. Probably can see it better down here. As round as we can. Now that's more like an oval, so I want to make it round. There we go. Maybe a little up there. And it should lay flat. Now if you put your piles on just the coat hanger, they will spin around. So we have to put what they call a winder on it. To make your winder, you take a piece of long bough and cut all the pieces off. You could leave these pieces on, but it's much easier to handle if you cut them off. So you'll end up with a piece like this. This may not be enough to go around your complete circle of your hanger, so you might need a shorter second piece. You start by taking your hanger, holding it in your hand, and wind it around or weave it around. And this is where it isn't long enough to go all the way. So I'll show you in a minute what you do with the extra piece. So you take your paddle, this is called a paddle of wire, and it's made so that you have your piece that you pull off, and you can hold it in your hand like this and pull, so you won't be cutting your hands with the wire. So you start at the top and wind it around the hook. And you want to, again, weave it back and forth. Now I'm going to stop here and show you, because this is a good place to do that. If I happen to break it, which I usually break it at least once, this is how you fix it. You take the end that was cut off or loose here, and you make a loop and you twist. So you have a little loop there. Then you take your broken end, put it through that loop, and make another little loop and twist it. Making that a connection that should stay. If you've done enough twists, it should stay. It won't break there again. And then you continue to wind around. This is just securing it. You don't have to do it too many times. Just enough to hold it in place on that coat hanger. And now I'm getting to that end that was short. And I want to take this extra piece and put it there, and maybe wind these a couple of times just to secure it very tightly there. Now you can continue to wind this around. If they're very stiff, you can snap these and bend it a little more. It won't bother it any if they're slightly broken. And it can crisscross up at the top. And when you get to the top, you just want to secure this by going around a couple of times. And leave your wire attached, because you're going to need this when you start putting on your piles. So we're going to move over to this one. Now, all these greens are balsam. We call this a top, or I'll refer to it as the top. If you turn it over, you will see the stems. So I call this the bottom. So you'll hear me, as we talk about it, talk about the top. You always want your top facing up. You want to see the nice greens. There is also what we call double. You can see how they really spike up. And single needles. So these are very flat, kind of wispy looking. You can use either. If you have them in your pile, I would suggest mixing it. The secret is to be consistent. So if you're going to use some of these and some of these, be consistent. Put the same amount in each pile. Or you can just use all the double or all the single. We're ready to cut. So to start cutting your pieces, and I need this, you want to make them about as big as your hand. If you have trouble remembering how big your hand is, you can put a piece of tape, just a piece of masking tape, down on the table. That way you can measure them to be about the same each time, because you want to make them about the same each time. So to do that, now I've done this for so many years, I can fairly much tell you how long they are. You cut off a piece. So we have this nice end that's nice and full and pretty. And we also have another piece here that we can use. We call these the fillers. And you see it's a V. You cut this off way down into the V, and now you have a Y. We can do the same thing. No, this one probably would cut off here. You could use this end. You want to cut here. Here's another example of a piece that you can use. Cut right down into the V. And it happens to be two in a row here, so we'll cut that. And we'll cut that, and you'll notice that from here to here, this isn't quite as long. This one's better. We would use this piece. I would probably take this piece. And once in a while, you can use single pieces. Other than that, this is pretty much done. You want to use as much of the greens as you possibly can. So the next step is to layer it. You want them all the same length. The length makes the fullness this way. How many you put in your piles makes the thickness this way. So you want to start, I usually start in the middle. So I could take this cut piece if I wanted to, and you put a good piece over the top of it. So you never see cut pieces. Any professional wreath that you see made will not ever show a cut piece. So we want to hide them. You can use them, but you want to hide them. So you put the best pieces you have. This is another Y. You can hide it. You can even tilt it to one side. And you're trying to make a fan. It does not matter what these bottom pieces are doing. What you want is a rounded edge here on the top. And you can put anywhere from 7 to maybe a dozen. That wreath that we showed you at the very beginning has a dozen in each pile. So that's a pretty full wreath. So if you wanted to put this wreath between two doors, like my front door has a storm door on it, so I would want to make this probably a little bit skinnier so that the storm door, the glass of the storm door does not hit against these needles, because eventually they'll fall off. So that, again, this has about 12 in each pile. If you want it skinnier, then you would probably put about 7 in each pile. And again, we'll continue to add to this. Now this is longer than the others, but I'm going to put it on here because it won't matter what happens here at the bottom. Let me grab the frame over here. And now you're going to attach it to your frame. So you do that by facing it out slightly, not this way, this way. If you put it this way, you're going to fill in your hole. So you want to slant it slightly outward. Grab a hold of it. And this is too long, so I'm going to let go. And go around probably somewhere between 1/3 and halfway up your piles. Here you go, pull it tight. That's the way you should hold that, to pull it nice and tight. Once around, twice around should be good. You're going to take your next bunch and proceed to make your fan. Putting the best ones that you have on the top, hiding your cut pieces of the ones that don't look so good on the bottom. Here's one of those V's or Y's. Hide that on the bottom. There's another one of those Y's. And I think that's, this is a nice one. We'll put that one right on the top. And I think that's all we'll put here. Grab a hold of it, and around we go once, twice. And that will secure it. And you keep on going, pile after pile, all around. Now here's one that's about halfway. And I made it this way because I want to tell you one special thing that happens, especially to new-time wreath makers. Right at this point, and I have no idea why, you start making your pieces longer, and you start putting more in the pile. So what happens is that this side of the wreath will become much thicker than this side of the wreath, and it will be lopsided, and it's a little hard to try to decorate and cover that up. So be careful when you get halfway that you are consistent. Consistency is the name of this game. And now we're going to move over to here with one that's almost finished. This is another kind of tricky point that people say, what do I do now? You make your piles. Well, this one wasn't made yet. You do this very quickly. These are nice pieces. All right, we're going to use that the way it is. Like another piece there on the top. All right, so you put that here, just like you've been doing. Wire it around. Oh, this, wrong one. So this one doesn't go under yet. We're not quite at that point. So we're going to take your next bunch. Oops. Y underneath. Oops. You certainly don't want to see anything like that on the top, so something got twisted here. All right, we're going to go with that. And again, do you see how I've got all the top sides and not the bottom side showing anywhere on your wreath? So now you have to pick up the first ones that you put on and push that underneath, or mesh it underneath. Continue to wire just like you have, anywhere from 1/3 to halfway up. If you get too close to the ends with your wire, it will look fine when it's laying down. When you pick it up, these pieces will just flop forward. So you want to make sure you get it at least a third way up. And we're going to put one more bunch in there, I believe. Ooh, these are long. All right, that's probably good. And if I was making this wreath, I would not put this bunch in there just like that. You notice these are all doubled. These are very thick. These are different than these. I don't know whether you can tell on the camera or not, but these are different. And just this one pile that's a different. Well, I can see some of them. So there are a few mixed in. Pick up that first bunch, tuck it in there, and use your wire. Every wreath, whether it's made by a professional or not, has a weak place in it. That's usually the place that you put your bow or some of your decorations. Now you fluff that out, and it should fill in. So I might put my bow here, and I might even put it here. It helps if you can put it on a hook and stand back and look at it. And you just finish it off by, I'm back where the hook is here. Just finish it off by going around several times. And since I'm a sewer, I usually do a loop and pull it. And that's there, and you can cut that off. If you get to this point and your weak place is over here, and that's where you want to put your bow. This isn't made yet, but we'll just put it here. But you want your wreath to hang there. You're going to need to take a piece of wire and make a loop so then you can hang it this way instead of hanging it where the hook is. And that's perfectly fine. So that completes the wreath assembly. Now we can go on to decorating it. This is the bows that come with your kit. You want to bring the tails to the front, your wires to the back, and then you start with the inner loop and pull it forward and twist it when you're doing this. Now remember, when you put this on to your wreath, it will fold up like this so it gets a little fuller looking. And while this red ribbon makes a beautiful ribbon, I also like ribbon like this that you buy in the stores, which have wire on the edges of them so that you can bend them in any direction that you want. And they come in all kinds of colors. So if you want a pink bow, you can buy pink. So you want to fluff these out with your thumb. Fluff up your knot, kind of push it down. And then you have a wire on the back that you're going to spread apart. Bring it through to the back. And if I can find it here. Here it is. And twist it on the back. I know it's sideways. It's going to be okay. And I always... You'll end up with some ends of the wire. I always take this wire and stick it down inside so that you don't get poked with it next time you pick it up. Now you can turn this in any direction you want. And again, fluff it up. And I'll say again, it would help if I was hanging this up on a hook or somewhere that I could stand back and look at it. Now, you can use pine cones. You can paint your pine cones. A little bit of white paint just down the top of it. If you're going to do this and you want to do it all in one session, then paint these first so they have a chance to dry and you won't get it all over your fingers. Take a piece of wire that's about 18 inches long, bend it in half so you know approximately where the middle is, and then you're going to run it through the bottom scales. Just pull it and twist it. I'll do it again. Bend your wire in half, put it through the bottom scales, And you usually see these in groups of 3s. They don't have to be, but you usually see them in groups of 3. 3 seems to be pleasing to the eye. So then you wire them together, and you'll end up with something like this. You take and separate them. This was done before, so they're not quite as tight as I would have them. There we go. And again, you're going to take those wires and bring them around to the back. Twist them. And like I always do, tuck those ends into the wreaths so you don't get stuck. Now you can move these around wherever you want them to. So if you want one to lay over sideways, fine. If you want them all to stand up, you can make them all stand up. You can do that in groups. Probably I would put 3 of them on there, but that would be totally up to you. These are just some samples of other things you might use. White berries, red ones. These come in all kinds of colors. You can get pink ones, green ones, purple ones. You can buy sparkly pine cones, sparkly little balls, maybe little red flowers. You can use flowers. You can use little messages. One year my wreath had these on them. And also, if you come across something like this, but you don't know how to stick it on, these little floral picks are wonderful. They have a little wire on the end of it, and then you just wire it to the item, and then these will stick in very nicely and probably will not fall out. These are clips. You could clip these on. You can take little pieces of ribbon and fold them over, wire them on the end, and then wire them onto your wreath. Or you could use little figurines. And then I oftentimes really like a natural looking wreath. So these are rose hips, multifloral roses. My husband hates those. And these have nasty thorns on them, so you have to pick the thorns off if you don't want to get picked. These are sedum that these are natural ones. I've just happened to spray this little bunch. And here's a bunch that's silver. So you could spray your items. Here's a natural, I think these are black-eyed Susans, but I'm not too sure. And then they're in very poor condition. You can spray paint them again. Oops, here's some spray painted red. Or just some, and I'm not sure what this is, just weeds I'll call it. Or you can use those pieces, pull it apart, and you can stick them in like this. Now you can also tip your wreath with silver paint. I probably wouldn't tip it with the red paint. I'm going to show you what I did with the green in a minute. This is fake snow. And oops, didn't shake it enough. So you could tip, it's the way I'm holding the can, I think. And so you can make it look like there's snow on it. You can also use spray adhesive and glitter. Remember that glitter goes everywhere. So if you want to hang this in your house, you're going to have glitter all over and you'll find it for months afterwards. But if you are a fan of glitter, you would do that. You can hot glue your items on. It will stick to the wreath. And the last thing I want to show you is a wreath that I made last year. It was just hung in the garage. It turned brown. And then I spray painted it with silver and just put a bow on it. Easy. This is also one that I made last year. And you notice this is much smaller, much thinner, has fewer pieces in the piles. This was spray painted green. This is the first time I've ever spray painted one green. And then again, I just put the decorations. I took last year's decorations off, and then I put the new decorations on. Probably took 15 minutes. All right, I want to thank you all for listening. Please come to Beaver Lake and enjoy it here, and I wish you all happy holidays.